I normally live far behind the pop culture curve, not out of any conscious desire to be a pretentious hipster, but rather a general lack of interest in mainstream topics. I've never seen an episode of Stranger Things, I still haven't downloaded Facebook, Twitter, or TikTok, and a friend recently had to explain Coachella to me. But there is one media phenomenon that I was actually early for: Avatar: The Last Airbender's resurgence.
Check this out!
The show was re-added to Netflix on May 15th of 2020, but my renaissance with this franchise began 2 years earlier. I was browsing Walmart with my friends Madison and Paul when we found a DVD box set of the entire series. The two of them were thrilled. They'd both watched it air on TV as kids and couldn't wait to relive their favorite childhood show. I was significantly less excited. When given the choice between Disney Channel and Nickelodeon, young Jenny always picked PBS Kids, but 18-year-old me wanted to see what all the fuss was about.
Okay, 2 copper pieces.
We bought the DVDs and spent the rest of that summer binging The Last Airbender, finishing season 3 just before college swooped in and sent us to completely different corners of the state. The show was even better than they said it would be, and I quickly fell in love with these characters and their well-considered world. It's a period of time I remember fondly, especially considering how much we miss Paul. He's not dead or anything, he's just terrible at texting back.
You see this? That's the send button.
Madison and I went on to binge The Legend of Korra that following January during a 20-hour road trip to North Carolina. My dad, bless his heart, willingly drove us to Charlotte to see the Lightning Thief musical since that was the closest tour location coming to Louisiana. 2 weeks after we made this ungodly odyssey, they added New Orleans to the itinerary. This viewing experience was significantly less fun, thanks in no small part to the claustrophobic confines of a moving vehicle, but Korra is simply a much weaker show. The supporting cast is less developed, and its attempts at philosophical conversation are severely underbaked. But we both love Korra as a character. She's an excellent protagonist who deserved a better writer's room.
Katara agreed with me that I should come. She said my destiny is in Republic City.
Don't bring my mother into this.
Bruh.
I say all of this in an attempt to properly contextualize my relationship with this franchise. The fandom was by no means dead when I jumped on board, but certain avenues of discussion had already trapped themselves down a long, winding blind alley. As wonderful as it was to watch other people fall in love with Avatar, I'd be lying if I said the show's resurgence didn't permanently affect my feelings toward it. Fandom discourse took a different shape, one I don't particularly like. Shipping wars set sail again. Analyses pertaining to Katara and Azula were dripping with thinly veiled sexism, and Zuko became the gold standard for cartoon redemption arcs despite the fact that his story is more analogous to a person recontextualizing the sum of their life choices. He was an antagonist, not a villain. That's not to say he didn't have things to atone for, but to quote Alan Francis Doyle,
"We all got something to atone for."
I'm not here to gatekeep Avatar discourse, nor am I even remotely qualified for such a job, but some of y'all need to develop basic critical thinking skills. I'm so sick of the Kyoshi loves violence memes. There's a difference between being stern and bloodthirsty.
Only justice will bring peace.
I knew I shouldn't have asked Kyoshi.
My frustrations only continued to grow from here, but throughout all of this extraneous nonsense, one thing remained constant: my undying love for Ty Lee.
Clumps! They're clumps!
Ty Lee is delightful. She only appears in 11 episodes, but she left a lasting impact on viewers like me. Her character has fortunately been spared from broader fandom discourse. The closest thing to analysis she's received is the theory that she's descended from airbenders, and I choose to categorize that as fun but ultimately irrelevant speculation. I've always been fond of unapologetically feminine characters, and Ty Lee is no exception. She wears pink, she's flirty, her smile lights up a room. I think these personality quirks are fun, but the showrunners seem to disagree. Official companion material once described Ty Lee as the Avatar version of a Valley Girl, and this comparison feels like a multi-layered insult. Urban Dictionary defines the term as a spoiled, idiotic female who is beautiful but has no idea where she is. Descriptions that are less scathing point to these girls' shared geographic and socioeconomic qualities, but words like materialistic and airhead are still present in these definitions.
You're not prettier than we are.
I don't care what the episode credits say. A man had to have written this line. Ty Lee may be ditzy, but she's not stupid. She's a skilled fighter and proficient acrobat. Her ability to chi-block opponents is a major source of anxiety for characters like Katara, who rely on their bending to defend themselves. Sokka, on the other hand, is less concerned with the existential implications of this technique. As a non-bender, he's learned how to be resourceful with his weapons and strategies, and his hard-headedness is both metaphorical and literal.
Good try, but no.
Ty Lee also possesses some emotional intelligence, though her peers refuse to acknowledge this fact.
It's a painting of your family.
You think I care?
I think you do.
You don't know me, so why don't you just mind your own business?
I know you.
Compared to the other Fire Nation kids, Ty Lee's trauma isn't as overtly painful. Zuko and Azula were blatantly abused, and May's parents went out of their way to repress all of their daughter's thoughts and feelings. But Ty Lee's status as a septuplet still created a valid emotional burden. There's no metric that can comparably measure suffering. Agony isn't quantifiable. Our struggles don't define us, but they do affect how we process the wider world. Establishing a unique identity is always a difficult task. Add 6 identical siblings into the mix, and you'll likely develop a complex relationship with your sense of self. If nothing about you is unique, then how do you distinguish yourself? One potential approach is to accept attention from utterly smitten boys.
Wow, thanks! This is so pretty.
Not as pretty as you are.
That shell's not so great.
Ahem. Shade. Shade!
Ty Lee doesn't seem to like any of these suitors in a romantic sense, but their constant stream of flattery is a surefire way to boost her ego. When pressured to pick between 5 guys, she chi-blocks all of them and cartwheels away. Frankly, iconic.
Those boys won't leave me alone. I guess they all just like me too much.
Azula accuses Ty Lee of being ignorant here, but that assessment is tinged with jealousy. Ty Lee intentionally downplays her understanding of most situations. She's feigning ignorance as a self-defense mechanism. What Azula says to her is mean and uncalled for, but the insults that tend to stick with us are the ones we fear are true. A septuplet with insecurities regarding her individualism would probably burst into tears if someone told her that no one genuinely liked her on a personal level.
Okay, calm down. I didn't mean what I said.
Paradoxically, her self-doubt opens the door for a broader understanding of other people. Reflection is a luxury few people develop, especially at such a young age.
Circus freak is a compliment.
Never forget what you are. The rest of the world will not. Wear it like armor, and it can never be used to hurt you.
This interesting aspect of Ty Lee's character is unfortunately undermined by her well-intentioned but poorly considered ending.
I joined the circus because I was scared of spending the rest of my life as part of a matched set.
The comics try to justify this character choice in the 40th issue Sisters, but much like Buffy the Vampire Slayer's run with Dark Horse, I choose to ignore this material's existence. The writing in these projects is rarely up to par, and comics are not a cheap investment.
You literally own 300 DVDs.
Why would you say something so controversial yet so brave? Crappy conclusions aside, I adore Ty Lee. The seeds of her character arc are subtle, but they grow into something truly remarkable despite her lack of screen time. We're first introduced to Ty Lee in Return to Omashu. Azula wants to assemble a small elite team to help her capture the Avatar, so she seeks out everyone's favorite circus freak. Ty Lee is initially happy to see her old school friend, but she politely declines Azula's offer.
I mean, my aura has never been pinker.
Having seen the acrobat's evident joy, Azula kindly chooses to respect her friend's wishes and continues her quest alone.
Just kidding!
Yeah, Azula wasn't taking no for an answer. She coerces Ty Lee into joining her through a combination of manipulative tactics and relentless fear-mongering.
The universe is giving me strong hints that it's time for a career change. I want to join you on your mission.
Sure, Jan.
Once May completes this new trio, Ty Lee's primary narrative function becomes comic relief.
Hey, look at that dust cloud. It's so poofy. Poof.
She also goes out of her way to flirt with Sokka. His good looks could peacefully unify all 4 nations.
It's like we're dancing together.
In many ways, Ty Lee is further characterized by her and May's differences. May puts on a front of general disinterest, which makes Ty Lee seem more sincere by comparison, but this observation isn't necessarily true. She's constantly complimenting Azula, and though these statements are not disingenuous, their actual intent is obfuscated until the end of Season 3.
Gosh, you're so confident. I really admire that about you.
Ty Lee's bubbly persona has a disarming effect on characters and audience members alike. She spent several years living in a circus. She knows how to put on a convincing performance. She's also one of the only characters in this show to actually hold down a job, which is fairly impressive when you remember how ill-suited these kids are for civilian life. They were bred for war rooms, not parties.
That's a sharp outfit, Chan. Careful, you could puncture the hull of an Empire-class Fire Nation battleship, leaving thousands to drown at sea. Because it's so sharp.
Good one, Azula.
At its core, Avatar: The Last Airbender is a show about characters and the choices they make. These decisions range from inconsequential fun to matters of life and death. Which guiding influence do I listen to? Does the Fire Lord deserve to die for his crimes? Should I drink the cactus juice?
Drink cactus juice. It'll quench you. Nothing's quenchier. It's the quenchiest.
A significant choice that's often overlooked is the one that Ty Lee makes in The Boiling Rock Part 2. After May lets Zuko escape, Azula confronts her quietest friend. The conversation nearly takes a fatal turn, but Ty Lee intervenes without hesitation, chi-blocking the princess in order to save May's life. The first time I saw this scene, my jaw hit the floor. May and I were equally stunned. Ty Lee managed to trick everyone with her persona. Her true thoughts and feelings were well hidden, but when presented with an impossible situation, Ty Lee makes a definitive choice.
There it is!
Those of you who are familiar with this channel know that I'm a huge proponent of existential philosophy. The universe is largely indifferent to us, but in the absence of any intrinsic meaning or divine purpose, free will still enables us with the power to make meaningful choices. To surrender this ability to another person or external organization is to live in bad faith. Authenticity is crafted when we embrace our innate freedom and reject societal pressure. For nearly 2 seasons, Ty Lee behaved like an object in the universe at the mercy of its circumstances. The princess denied her ability to say no, so fear took precedent over all other potential choices. May operated in a similar fashion, but her decision to save Zuko helped embolden Ty Lee. Love is more powerful than fear, and that's ultimately Azula's greatest miscalculation.
What shall we do with them, princess?
Put them somewhere I'll never have to see their faces again, and let them rot!
I'm fairly biased toward characters who sever toxic platonic ties. That's been one of the most common emotional experiences for me, especially within the last 5 years. It never gets easier, but the choice still needs to be made, no matter how terrifying it may be.
We have been presented with an extraordinary opportunity, girls.
May finally gets to wear makeup that's not totally depressing?
Ha ha.
Very few people expected Ty Lee to betray Azula. Though this decision was initially shocking, it makes perfect narrative sense. This scene was the culminating moment of an arc she earned, a healthy blend of quiet characterization and smart writing. In short, it's quintessential Avatar. I still think her joining the Kyoshi Warriors is a haphazard conclusion, especially when you consider everyone else's endings, but there is an uplifting angle to it. Ty Lee actively chose to join their ranks. No one forced her to don the armor. She wasn't ordered to wear the face paint. She simply found a place where she wanted to be, and that's a triumph in its own right. Here's hoping the other warriors know how to handle a proper hair emergency.
Oh, May, Ty Lee needs your help untangling her braid.
Sounds pretty serious.